Some inputs that have just come in where, according to reports, 4 Pakistani terrorists have been killed by the Indian forces in the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, which is now a union territory. Now, according to reports, a gun battle started near the toll plaza in the area of Nagrota near Jammu. And this after the vehicle in which the terrorists were travelling was reportedly intercepted by the Jammu and Kashmir police at about 4:30 a.m. in the morning. The terrorists then opened fire at the Indian forces and also lobbed a grenade. All 4 Pakistani terrorists were killed by the Indian forces in the resulting gunfight. The 2 personnel of the Special Operations Group were also injured in this operation. The injured have been identified as 32-year-old Kuldeep Raj of Akhnur and 40-year-old Muhammad Ishaq Malik of Neel Qasim Banihal Ramban. Now, both have been admitted in the GMC Jammu with injuries on neck, and also their condition is said to be stable at this point of time. 11 AK-47 rifles and other ammunition has been recovered from the dead terrorists. The authorities have sealed the Jammu-Srinagar highway and all traffic movement has been restricted after the terror attack. Now, according to the Jammu and Kashmir police, all the terrorists had freshly infiltrated into India's Samba sector from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
पिछले कुछ दिन से पाकिस्तान बहुत ट्राई कर रहा है इन्फिल्ट्रेशन कराने के लिए और इलेक्शन जो होने वाला है जिसकी तैयारी चल रही है ऑलरेडी डिस्टर्ब करने के लिए इस कॉन्टेस्ट में जम्मू पुलिस सिक्योरिटी फोर्स ने मिलकर बहुत सारा काम वहां पर किया है चारों जो पाकिस्तानी को न्यूट्रलाइज कर दिया गया है और उनका मनसा इधर कश्मीर में आके इलेक्शन में डिस्टर्ब करना था।
तो किस तरह आपने इलेक्शन की बात की है? तो
इलेक्शन पूरी हम लोग तैयारी कर रहे हैं। जेएनके पुलिस सिक्योरिटी फोर्स के साथ पूरी तैयार है। हम लोग कैंडिडेट को सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं। कल से कैंडिडेट लोग अपने फील्ड में जाके कैंपेनिंग करना शुरू कर दिया है। कोई डरने की बात नहीं है।
All right, now to get us more details in terms of what has happened earlier this morning, we're joined in by our correspondent Ishan Vani, who's been tracking the developments very closely for us from the ground. Now, good afternoon to you, Ishan. Get us the latest. What's happened?
Good afternoon, Saleh. First of all, it seems like security forces had already inputs about these militants trying to travel and infiltrate from Jammu to Kashmir Valley. We already know security forces have said that it seems like in the wee hours, either today or yesterday late at night, this group has infiltrated. Jaish-e-Mohammed is a group which is known for carrying out deadly attacks not only in the Kashmir Valley but also in Jammu. We have seen that such deadly attacks have been carried out by the Jaish-e-Mohammed in the past. Whenever we have seen a Pakistani group infiltrating into Kashmir, it means that they could be involved in a suicide attack, which is called a Fidain attack also. But significant that they were caught near that particular plaza. CRPF has already said in their statement that yes, there was an input with the security agencies, and that's when this truck was asked to stop, and then a fire was drawn from that particular place. Despite repeated attempts asking these militants to surrender, they started firing at the security forces, in which 2 special operation group of the Jammu and Kashmir policemen were injured, who are being treated as a hospital. They have received minor injuries and are being treated at the hospital. But later on, when the vehicle from which the fire was drawn, the fire was retaliated by the security forces, including the Indian Army, CRPF and Jammu and Kashmir Police. 4 bodies were later recovered, and all of them seem to be from Pakistan, who had recently infiltrated. Now, the police believes that they could have come to Kashmir. Their aim was to carry out an attack because DDC elections are going to happen, which is the 3rd tier of the Panchayati Raj system in Jammu and Kashmir, and that was going to happen. That is going to actually happen, and to disturb that, police believes that they were sent across. They were carrying with them heavy weaponry, satellite phones, grenade launchers, UBGL, and also 11 AK-47. Despite being 4 in numbers, there were 11 AK-47, which indicates and hints at the shortage of weaponry to the militants who are operating in the Kashmir Valley, and that may be the reason why they were carrying around 11 rifles and other ammunition as well. From the security forces perspective, it's a big catch for them, given the fact that they were traveling to the Kashmir Valley. We've already seen several several encounters taking place in Kashmir Valley. But once again, security forces have been able to successfully neutralize these militants at Nagrota. But this is a significant place. This is not for the first time that such attacks, an attempt has been foiled by the security forces. Earlier also there were attempts made by the security agency, by the militants to sneak in through that particular national highway to Kashmir Valley and create disturbance. But this time around, again, security forces successfully being able to neutralize these militants in that part of Jammu and not letting them come to the Kashmir Valley where the elections are due to take place later this month.
Absolutely indeed, Ishan. Now, for the benefit of our viewers who are not very perhaps familiar with the topography of that area in Jammu and Kashmir, how far in had these terrorists managed to sneak inside of India, where they were initially challenged and then this encounter took place?
Well, they had successfully crossed through the line of control or international border in Samba, and then they had actually, we have seen in the past, there are several cases being investigated of similar nature by the NIA, and what they have figured out in their modus operandi is that they usually do sneak in through at night, taking advantage of the dense cover of grass, and night they try to sneak into the Indian side, and at the same time, the same day, through their operators and handlers here in Kashmir or other parts, they try to come through their buses, trucks, because usually it's difficult to check these trucks and buses, and that is the same thing we are seeing, that if we evaluate this particular incident, it seems that in a similar fashion they were trying to sneak into Kashmir Valley, but nonetheless they had successfully infiltrated. But after infiltrating, it seems the security forces already had an input, and that is why we are seeing that they were stopped at this particular place. Now this belt, again, for the benefit of our viewers, it seems that this belt is where security forces have time and time again received inputs and neutralized these militants who try to sneak into Kashmir Valley. Because in Jammu, they wouldn't be able to survive for a long time. And we have also seen attacks in Jammu by Jaish-e-Mohammed after infiltrating. But this time around, it seems they wanted to come to Kashmir from the international border. In Kashmir Valley, we have already seen there has been a fresh spell of snowfall, which means that if it intensifies, the snow intensifies, the passes through which they infiltrate through the line of control in Kupwara, in Uri, be it in Bandipur or other sectors in the Kashmir Valley, they will close down, which means that they will have to take, the infiltration will happen mostly through the international border and places in Jammu where we see no snowfall. So that is, we believe that that is the reason why they tried to infiltrate through international border through Samba and then try to come to Kashmir Valley to carry out attacks. But it seems the police says that they wanted to carry out big attacks, but that has been averted now successfully by the security forces.
Absolutely indeed, Ishan, and you made an important point there about the change of weather and as to how that actually impedes the pattern of these infiltrations that are attempted. With winter setting in, with snow falling, that makes it harder for these terrorists to actually cross the border in certain regions. Now, at this point of time, you would have been talking to the security personnel there. What do they expect? Because now the winter has set in. Do they expect more similar such attempts by these terrorists to try and infiltrate into India?
We already know that there were 2 attempts to infiltrate through Kupwara and other places in North Kashmir, and they were successfully foiled. And we have already seen that there has been a snowfall, and experts over the years have been saying this, that when the weather starts to change its pattern in the Kashmir Valley towards a mountainous region and there are chances of snowfall, that is when they try to mostly send most militants to the Kashmir Valley, to this part of Kashmir Valley from the North Kashmir. They have already said that their counter-insurgency grid is strong towards the North Kashmir, from where they try to sneak in mostly. But as the snowfall will intensify and the weather will change, there will be less infiltration through these routes. But before this snowfall sets in and other things happen, they try to maximize the number of infiltration and send as many as militants possible, because in winter there will be less infiltration, so that which means that militants would not be able to sustain. And if encounters happen like they have been happening continuously in the Kashmir Valley, there will be less presence of Pakistani militants who are much deadlier than the local ones. So that will be pretty important for the security forces if they are able to maintain a high guard at the line of control. We have also seen that there are ceasefire violations which Indian Army says is done to provide a shield and cover to the militants to infiltrate towards this side. There have been infiltration even day before yesterday. There was a ceasefire violation towards the Kupwara side. The Indian Army said that they try to provide a cover so that the army gets engaged in the front with the Pakistan regular pillars, and then at the same time there is an attempt to sneak in when the ceasefire violation is taking place. But the army says that the guard is strong, counter-insurgency grid is very strong in North Kashmir, and there have been successful infiltration in the past, but they maintain that they will try to keep their guard up, and all the measures that they will take before the snow sets in. There's a lot of snow actually on the line of control at the peak of the winter, and that makes it difficult for the infiltration to take place. But that is maybe the reason why the infiltration is now shifting towards Jammu side, and they're trying to sneak into Kashmir.
I think that's an important point that you've made. Thank you very much indeed, Ishan Wani, for joining us and getting us all those updates from this big story that has just unfolded in Jammu and Kashmir. We'll of course come back to you as more details emerge.